So it's been a while since the last time we did one of these videos, a little time lapse of one of my most recent art pieces. I was just overall really pleased with how this last print turned out. I have always wanted to make a Cowboy Bebop print of some kind that is worthy of all those Toonami and Adult Swim fans across the world. Something that when you see this print from across Artist Alley, you're like, holy cow, I've never seen any sort of Cowboy Bebop art of that nature, or even that style, you know, something like a different take on the whole ragtag space crew of bounty hunters and just people trying to make a quick buck so they can eat, you know? Because when a lot of artists try and depict or concoct their own vision or put together their own art of what bebop means to them, it usually comes down to the whole see a space cowboy vibe, and that whole meme usually comes down to, you know, the swordfish looking cool as hell with Spike Spiegel leaning on it, or Spike and Faye just like aiming their guns at the camera. And no disrespect to all the other artists who have created the coolest bebop art possible, that's kind of where I started with this. I wanted to try that as well, but I wanted to also encapsulate what bebop means to me. It's a very powerful, timeless classic of a show. Even if you're not into anime, this is the show to watch. One of the biggest themes that resonated with me throughout the entire show is you go through a lot of crap in life. You're going to carry those weights of all the decisions that people make around you, the decisions that you make for your future, and how you can sort of guide your present to hopefully something positive in the future. But ultimately, what it comes down to is the people who are around you. You know, the people you surround yourself with, those people that guide you, the voices of reason at the end of the day, and the people who honestly have your back, even if you're making the dumbest decision in your life. These people are ultimately your family. So that's the kind of vibe I wanted to create with my own attempt at a Cowboy Bebop print. So here we have it. I just finished the sketch phase. As you can tell, you've got your Spike Spiegel on the left side. Very casual, very relaxed, sort of like, okay, he just got done with either a gunfight or a dogfight in space, and here he is just having a smoke, you know, just relaxing, crossing his legs and leaning against the dock door here. And that vibe carries through to each one of the characters. It's kind of like they just finished one of the biggest missions, caught one of the most important bounties of their entire career. So here they are just turning to the bebop and wanting to relax and recollect themselves after a long day's work. Shoot, most of those episodes seemed like they lasted for weeks. Those missions were so difficult. So I tried to recreate sort of an imaginary scene in my head of them all coming back from that, landing on the bebop, and just wanting to go back down below decks and eat some bell peppers and beef. Where's the beef? So in this time lapse, you just saw me finish some of the coloring here on Spike's suit and his hair and his skin, and now we're moving to Faye. It's also got that kind of worn out sort of stride going, and wanting just to go back and relax and just chill on the couch as everyone complains and goes about their night. Then we have Ein, who's just super excited to get back home, just like any other dog would be. Look at him running with his ears flopping all around. And then we have Jet, one of my favorite characters, Jet in the back there. I love Jet. He's such a cool dude. He was actually one of my very first prints I ever made when I was just starting out my Artist Alley career, you know, tabling at conventions with just a few prints on my table. I just resonate with the man, and we share the same name, so it works out. And then we have Ed in the background there, who is just the most playful, cutest, adorable thing in the entire show. Pretty much a tie between Ed and Nine. I mean, come on, you gotta admit that they both are just the most adorable anime characters of all time. Not only do you have Ein in his little adorable, jiggly little run that corgis do all the time, but you've got Ed in the back there with just the most off-the-wall, zany somersault sort of thing that she would typically do on the deck of the bebop out there in the sun. And speaking of sun, I really wanted to, you know, go for that whole vaporwave, synthwave, 80s retro-inspired style with the background here. I have always been a huge fan of that whole pinks and oranges and neon blues and greens all over the place. So here you have the classic 80s sunset with those lines going through and just random bursts of neon colors and just bright reflections off of the ocean right there. And I wanted to also make that whole vibe that they're on a different planet, so I've got just random colors here and there, and you'll see more pop up throughout. And what better way to balance it all out with a proper garnish, if you will, than to put the greatest anime starship of all time, the Swordfish, of course, Spike Spiegel's ship of choice, in the background there, right on the edge of the bebop deck, just like it came down from the stars after a long dogfight. And look at my man Jet in the back there. He's all business, as usual. You know, he's got that hard, rough exterior, just like an old cop would have. So I topped it all off with a nice glow behind each character and just more and more glow stuff in the background to really, really capture that 80s retro sunset-inspired style. A lot of my most recent prints, you've noticed, have had a little bit of text garnish too in some corner. Like my last glow print just had the word glow right on the stage. I wanted to continue that whole theme by putting "See a Space Cowboy," the typical Cowboy Bebop tagline, somewhere in neon on the deck. But then I was like, oh, but I should put it in that font that you see at the end of every episode. But wait, there is a much better tagline. The very last sentence that you see in the show, right at the end of the last episode. You're gonna carry that weight. And that's just so much more impactful. If you've seen the entire show, you know the weight of that statement, for real. I mean, pun intended, of course, it's a heavy statement. So there it is, replacing the typical "See a Space Cowboy" vibe. And yeah, I like it a lot more. So this here is the finished product. This is what you'll see if you buy this print. At any of my Convention Artist Alley appearances, you will find this print, and hopefully I'll be able to sell you one. But for my patrons, my Patreon members get a special edition one. I wanted to push that whole 80s inspired synthwave vaporware aesthetic further. So here it is. The alternate version of this print, which I like to call Bebop Red, with more of a red tint and a red glow to it to really encapsulate that feel. Because, you know, at the end of a heavy day, you're gonna be seeing red. Hopefully you guys like it. Thanks for checking this video out. My name's Jet Falco, and it's always been a pleasure to share my art with you here. If you enjoyed, please subscribe, and a huge, huge thank you to all of my patrons out there. You guys mean the world to me. So thank you to Kristen, Scott, Brittany, Brianna, Edward, Reagan, Chandra, Sigifredo, Dwarven Workshop, Shiloh Stitches, Dragon Child Graphics, Cartoons by Andy, Jamie Primick, 515 Comics, Green, Unicorn Art, and last but not least, Drayton Alien Jones. Thank you all so much, and feel free to check out some of the other great content on this channel. See you next time.